My farm is worth $18 million. I had everything appraised last month with a broker. Land, cattle, infrastructure, everything's worth a lot of money. But my life, it's worth nothing. 0 relationships, 0 family, 0 love. I spent 48 years building this fortune. I inherited 300 acres from my father and multiplied it to 8,500 acres. I should be proud. I'm destroyed. Because I did everything alone, and I'm going to die alone. I refused everything that wasn't work. Parties, dates, relationships, everything interfered with my plans. Today, at 67 years old, I understand that my plans were completely wrong. I never dated seriously. I never got married. I never had sex. I'm still a virgin. I don't have a wife to share this big house with. I don't have children to teach about the land. I don't have grandchildren to play in the barn. When I die, all of this is going to auction. Strangers will buy it. They'll erase everything I built. This awareness is killing me. I wake up in the early morning hours with my heart racing, sweating, thinking about death. I have advanced diabetes and heart problems. I know I don't have much time, and I'm going to die here, alone, full of regret. My farm is worth millions. My life is worth nothing. What a fool I was. My name is Robert William Clayton. I was born in 1958, right here on this same farm where I am now in West Texas, in a place that back then was nothing but dry land, hot wind, and a whole lot of hard work. My father, William Clayton, was a man of few words and many demands. He inherited this land from my grandfather, who in turn had fought tooth and nail to squeeze every penny out of this arid earth. I grew up hearing that a real man doesn't complain, doesn't cry, doesn't waste time on foolishness. A real man works, and that's exactly what I did my whole life. I worked. I worked until my bones ached, until my hands were as calloused as old leather, until my face was marked by the relentless Texas sun, as if someone had carved deep wrinkles into my skin with a dull knife. But I worked thinking I was building something great, something worthwhile, something that would make my name remembered. What an idiot I was. When my father died in 1977, I was 19 years old and inherited 300 acres of land. It wasn't much, but by the standards of the time, for a kid who had barely finished high school, it was an empire. I remember his funeral day like it was yesterday. Blue sky without a cloud, hellish heat, and me in a black suit sweating like a pig while the pastor talked about how my father had been a hard-working, honest, dedicated man. All those pretty words we use when someone dies, even if the person was hard, cold, distant. My father never hugged me, never told me he loved me, never sat down with me to talk about life, about women, about feelings. He taught me how to fix fences, how to care for cattle, how to negotiate at the market, how to save every penny. He taught me everything about work and nothing about life. And you know the worst part? I repeated exactly the same pattern. I look back now and see that I became a perfect copy of the man I swore I would never be. In the first years after I took over the farm, I had energy to spare. I'd wake up at 4 in the morning before the sun rose, and I was already at the corral checking the cattle. I'd spend the entire day working, fixing, building, expanding. My neighbors thought I was crazy. Tom Henderson, who had the farm north of mine, kept telling me to slow down, enjoy life, go out for a beer in town. But I always refused. I always had something more important to do, always had a fence to fix, a sick animal to care for, a deal to close. I'd see Tom with his wife Margaret, their 3 kids running around the yard, and I thought that was a distraction. I thought family slowed down a man's progress. I thought I was being smarter, more focused, more determined. Today Tom is retired, spends his days fishing with his grandchildren, and I'm here in this big empty house sitting in the dark at 3 in the morning, wondering where everything went wrong. The first major expansion came in 1982. I was 24 years old and had saved every penny I'd earned, while other guys my age were buying new trucks, going to rodeos, taking girls to drive-in movies. I was reinvesting everything back into the land. I bought an adjacent 200 acres from old Mr. Patterson, who was retiring and moving to live with his daughter in Dallas. I remember the day I signed those papers. The lawyer, a fat guy named Gerald Morrison, looked at me over his glasses and said, "Son, you sure you want to do this? You're putting everything you have into this deal. If something goes wrong, you'll lose it all." I looked him straight in the eye and said I was sure. I was absolutely certain. And I was right, at least in financial terms. That land was perfect for cattle, good grass, a small creek running through it, natural protection from the wind. Within 3 years, I had doubled my herd and was making more money than my father ever dreamed of. But here's what nobody tells you about success. Here's what they don't put in those motivational books or business magazines. Success is lonely. Real success, the kind that requires complete dedication, total sacrifice, absolute focus, is the loneliest thing in the world. While I was building my empire, while I was accumulating acres and head of cattle, while I was becoming known throughout the county as that young Clayton boy who's going to be rich someday, I was also building walls around myself. Walls so high and so thick that nobody could get through, and I built them on purpose. I built them thinking I was protecting myself, protecting my focus, protecting my dream. I was actually building my own prison. There was a girl. Her name was Sarah Mitchell. I met her in 1983 at the feed store in town. She was working the counter, and I had gone there to buy supplies. She had blonde hair that caught the sunlight coming through the window, green eyes that seemed to see right through all my defenses, and a smile that made my stomach do flips. I was 25 and had never felt anything like that before. She rang up my purchase and asked if I was new in town. I told her I'd lived here my whole life, just didn't come into town much. She laughed and said she could tell I was the hard-working type. We talked for maybe 10 minutes, and when I left, I couldn't stop thinking about her. For the next 3 weeks, I found excuses to go to that feed store. Needed wire I didn't really need. Bought supplements I already had. Anything to see her again and hear that laugh. She started expecting me. Would smile that special smile when I walked in. Started saving her lunch break for when I usually showed up so we could talk longer. One day, she wrote her phone number on my receipt and said maybe I'd like to call her sometime, maybe take her to dinner. I kept that receipt in my wallet for 2 months. Took it out 100 times, stared at those numbers, rehearsed what I would say. But I never called. Every time I got close to picking up the phone, I'd think about the work that needed to be done, the new cattle I wanted to buy, the expansion I was planning. I'd convince myself that starting a relationship would distract me from my goals, that I was too busy, that I'd call her later when things settled down, when I had more time. One day I went back to the feed store, and there was a different girl behind the counter. I asked where Sarah was, and the new girl said she'd quit 2 weeks ago, moved to Austin with her fiancé. My stomach dropped. I felt like someone had punched me in the gut. But I told myself it was for the best, told myself I had dodged a distraction, told myself I needed to focus on the farm. What a fool. What a complete and utter fool. The years blurred together after that. 1985, I bought another 500 acres. 1987, I modernized the entire operation with new equipment. 1990, I expanded into breeding premium cattle that sold for top dollar. Every year, more land, more cattle, more money. Every year, less connection to anything human. I stopped going to church, stopped attending community events, stopped accepting invitations to barbecues and birthday parties. People eventually stopped inviting me. I became known as that hermit Clayton, the guy who cares more about cows than people. And they were right, I did care more about cows than people. Cows were predictable. You feed them, care for them, and they grow and produce. Simple, clean, no emotions, no complications, no risk of getting hurt. People were messy. People had expectations. People wanted time and attention and emotional investment. I didn't have any of that to give, or so I thought. The truth is, I was just scared. Terrified, actually. Terrified of opening up, of being vulnerable, of letting someone see the scared little boy inside who never felt good enough for his own father. By 1995, I was 37 years old and owned over 3,000 acres. I was wealthy by local standards, had money in the bank, minimal debt, a growing operation that was the envy of the county, and I was completely alone. My typical day started at 4 in the morning and ended around 9 at night. I'd fall into bed exhausted, too tired to even think about what I was missing. On Sundays, while other families were having dinners together, going to church, spending time with each other, I was working. Always working. I told myself I was being productive, being responsible, being a good steward of the land. I was running away from the crushing loneliness that threatened to consume me every moment I stopped moving. Work was my drug, my escape, my excuse for not having a life. Tom Henderson tried to talk to me one evening in 1996. He showed up at my door with a six-pack of beer and said we needed to have a conversation. I almost didn't let him in, but there was something in his eyes, a concern that I couldn't ignore. We sat on my porch and he asked me straight out, "Robert, when are you going to start living? You've got all this land, all this money, but what's the point? Who are you building this for?" I got defensive. Told him I was perfectly happy, that I didn't need the complications of family life, that I was doing just fine on my own. He shook his head and said, "You're not fine, Robert. You're dying inside and you don't even know it. A man needs more than work, needs love, needs family, needs connection. Your father made the same mistake and you watched how that destroyed him. Don't make the same mistake." I got angry then, told him to mind his own business, that I didn't need his advice or his pity. He left, and we barely spoke for the next 5 years. I was too proud to admit he was right, too stubborn to admit I was scared. Let me tell you what fear does to a person. Real fear, the deep kind that sits in your gut and controls your decisions without you even realizing it. Fear convinced me that I wasn't good enough for a relationship, that no woman would want a rough, uneducated farmer who smelled like cattle and dirt. Fear told me that if I opened my heart I'd get rejected, and that rejection would destroy me. So I never opened my heart, never took the risk, never put myself out there. And in protecting myself from possible pain, I guaranteed myself a lifetime of actual pain. The pain of loneliness, the pain of regret, the pain of realizing far too late that I had wasted my entire life avoiding the one thing that makes life worth living. Connection, love, family, all the things I told myself I didn't need were actually the only things that mattered. The 2000s brought even more expansion. I was like a machine, programmed only to acquire and build. 2002, another 1,000 acres. 2005, a state-of-the-art facility for cattle processing. 2008, even during the recession when others were losing everything, I was buying up distressed properties at bargain prices. By 2010, I had over 7,000 acres and was one of the largest landowners in the region. Local newspapers did articles about my success. Business journals interviewed me about my strategies. I was held up as an example of the American dream, the self-made man who built an empire through hard work and determination. If they only knew the truth, if they only knew that every acre I bought was another layer of insulation between me and the human race. Every cow I added was another excuse not to have time for people. Every dollar I made was another brick in the wall I had built around my heart. I turned 50 in 2008, spent the day alone, working as usual. Didn't even acknowledge it was my birthday until I was lying in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, and realized half a century had passed. Half a century of life. And what did I have to show for it besides land and money? No wife who had stuck by me through the years. No children who called to wish me happy birthday. No friends who surprised me with a cake or a party. Nothing. Just me, alone in a big house, surrounded by thousands of acres of land that suddenly felt like a graveyard. A monument to wasted opportunity. A testament to fear masquerading as ambition. The physical problem started around 2012. I was 54 and started feeling tired all the time, thirsty constantly, losing weight despite eating normally. I ignored it for months because, well, that's what I did. I ignored problems and kept working. Finally, my vision started getting blurry, and I couldn't ignore that because I needed to see to work. Went to see Dr. Patricia Reynolds in town, and she ran some tests. Came back with the news that my blood sugar was sky-high, diabetes, type 2. She sat me down and gave me the lecture about diet, exercise, medication, lifestyle changes. Asked me if I had family support to help me manage this. I just stared at her. Family support, what a joke. I told her I'd handle it myself like I handled everything else. She looked at me with this mixture of pity and frustration and said, "Mr. Clayton, diabetes is a serious disease. It's much easier to manage with support, with people who care about you, checking in, helping you stay on track. Do you have anyone?" I lied and said yes, said I had friends who would help. She didn't believe me. I could see it in her eyes. But she gave me the prescriptions and the information and sent me on my way. Managing diabetes alone is harder than managing a ranch alone, and that's saying something. Nobody to remind you to check your blood sugar. Nobody to help you plan meals. Nobody to notice when you're slipping, when you're not taking care of yourself. I tried at first, really did. Took the medication, watched what I ate, checked my numbers regularly, but slowly, gradually, I started slipping. Too busy to check my sugar, too tired to cook healthy meals, too focused on work to remember medication. By 2015, my numbers were all over the place, and I was starting to have complications. Neuropathy in my feet, vision problems getting worse. Dr. Reynolds kept warning me that I needed to take this seriously, but how do you take your health seriously when you don't care if you live or die? That's the thing nobody talks about. When you're alone, truly alone, with nobody who would miss you if you were gone, it's hard to find a reason to take care of yourself. Who am I staying healthy for? The cattle? They'll get sold to someone else. The land? It doesn't care who owns it. Myself? I don't even like myself. I look in the mirror and see a coward, a man who had opportunities and squandered them. A man who chose fear over love, work over life, isolation over connection. Why would I fight to keep that man alive? But the body fights to survive even when the mind has given up. That's the cruel irony. My heart keeps beating, my lungs keep breathing, my body keeps going through the motions, even though my spirit died years ago. In 2017, I had a small heart attack. Woke up in the middle of the night with crushing chest pain, sweating, nauseous. Knew what it was. Drove myself to the hospital because there was nobody to call. Sat in the emergency room alone at 2 in the morning, filling out forms, and there was a section for emergency contact. I left it blank. The nurse noticed and asked who they should call if something happened during the procedure. I said there was nobody to call. She looked at me like I had just told her I was from another planet. Nobody at all, no family, no friends. I shook my head. She patted my hand and said she was sorry. I wanted to tell her not to be sorry for me, to save her sympathy for someone who deserved it. But I was too tired, too defeated. They put in a stent and kept me for observation. The cardiologist, young guy named Dr. James Cooper, came by and talked to me about lifestyle changes, stress reduction, support systems. Same conversation as with the diabetes doctor. Same questions about family and support. Same lies from me about having people who cared. He prescribed medications, gave me instructions, told me to follow up. I nodded and agreed and knew I probably wouldn't follow through because what was the point? I was 60 years old, owned 8,000 acres, worth millions, and had nobody who would visit me in the hospital. Nobody who would check on me when I got home. Nobody who would make sure I was taking my medications or eating right or reducing stress. I was completely, utterly, devastatingly alone, and it was entirely my own fault. Now here's where I want to ask you something, and I really want you to think about this before you answer in the comments. Have you ever made a decision that seemed right at the time, seemed logical and reasonable and smart, but years later you realized it was the worst decision of your life? Have you ever chosen something that seemed important, like a career or money or status, over something that was actually important, like relationships or love or connection? Because I'm sitting here at 67 years old, dying slowly from diabetes and heart disease, and I can trace every bad thing in my life back to a series of decisions I made where I chose work over people, money over love, fear over courage, and I'm wondering if any of you out there have made similar mistakes or are making them right now and just don't realize it yet. Drop your thoughts in the comments because maybe, just maybe, my story can save someone else from this fate. Maybe someone will read this and realize they're on the same path I was on and still have time to change course. Please, share your experience. Tell me I'm not the only one who lived this way. Tell me I'm not the only fool who threw away everything that mattered for things that don't matter at all. After the heart attack, I should have changed, should have woken up and realized that life is short and I was wasting it. Should have reached out to people, tried to rebuild some connections, tried to salvage something from the wreckage of my life. But I didn't. I went right back to the same routine, same early mornings, same long days, same empty evenings, same lonely nights. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, and I was the living embodiment of insanity. I kept working, kept expanding, kept building an empire that nobody would inherit, kept adding to a fortune that would eventually go to strangers, kept maintaining a ranch that would be sold off and divided up when I was gone. In 2019, I bought my final piece of land, 500 acres adjacent to my southern border. Beautiful property with rolling hills, natural springs, perfect grazing land. Put me at 8,500 acres total. The real estate agent, woman named Linda Sanchez, congratulated me on creating such an impressive legacy. I remember her exact words. She said, "Mr. Clayton, this is incredible. Your children and grandchildren will be so proud of what you've built here. This will stay in the Clayton family for generations." I didn't correct her, didn't tell her there was no family, didn't explain that the legacy she was talking about would die with me. I just signed the papers, transferred the money, and added another 500 acres to my collection of meaningless achievements. That night, standing on the porch of my house, looking out over land that stretched as far as I could see, land that I owned, land that represented decades of work and sacrifice and determination, I felt nothing. Complete emptiness. Should have felt pride or satisfaction or accomplishment. Should have felt something. But there was nothing there. Just a hollow feeling in my chest where a heart used to be. Just a numbness that no amount of land or money could fill. I thought about Sarah Mitchell, wondered where she was, if she was happy, if she had the family she probably wanted. I thought about Tom Henderson, who had tried to warn me and who I had pushed away. I thought about all the birthday parties I didn't go to, all the community events I skipped, all the invitations I declined, all the opportunities to connect that I had thrown away because I was too busy, too focused, too dedicated to my work, too scared. The pandemic hit in 2020, and for most people, it was a time of isolation and loneliness. For me, nothing changed. I was already isolated, already lonely, already living like there was a quarantine even before there was one. While other people struggled with not being able to see their families and friends, I didn't notice a difference. That's how pathetic my life had become. A global pandemic that separated families and devastated communities had zero impact on my daily existence because I had already separated myself from humanity years ago. I was pandemic-proof because I had nothing and nobody to lose. While people were video calling their grandchildren and having virtual family dinners, I was eating alone in my kitchen, same as always. While people were counting down the days until they could hug their loved ones again, I was counting cattle and measuring acres, same as always. But the pandemic did something to me. Watching the news, seeing people desperate to be with their families, seeing the grief of those who lost loved ones without being able to say goodbye, seeing the collective human experience of isolation and loneliness, something cracked inside me. For the first time in decades, I allowed myself to really feel the weight of what I had done to myself, allowed myself to acknowledge the magnitude of my mistake, allowed myself to grieve for the life I could have had but threw away. I spent nights crying, actual tears, for the first time since my father's funeral, crying for the wife I never had, crying for the children who were never born, crying for the grandchildren who would never exist, crying for the man I could have been if I hadn't been so afraid. In 2021, Dr. Reynolds told me my kidneys were starting to fail. Complication from the diabetes I hadn't been managing properly. She said I might need dialysis eventually, maybe even a transplant. Asked me again about family, about support systems, about people who could help me through this. I finally told her the truth, told her there was nobody, no family, no friends, no support system, just me. She sat down and was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Mr. Clayton, I've been your doctor for almost 10 years now. I've watched you slowly kill yourself through neglect and isolation. I've tried to help you, tried to get you to take care of yourself, but I can't make you care about living. Nobody can. You have to decide if you want to fight for your life or if you're just going to give up. What's it going to be?" I looked at her and said, "Honestly, I don't know." She said, "Well, you better figure it out soon because time is running out." Those words haunted me. Time is running out. At 63 years old, with multiple serious health problems, time was indeed running out. And what had I done with all the time I'd had? Built a ranch, made money, accumulated land, all things that would disappear the moment I took my last breath. I started having what I guess you'd call a late-life crisis. Started really examining my life, my choices, my regrets. Started making lists of all the things I wish I had done differently. The list was long, painfully long. Should have called Sarah Mitchell. Should have said yes to Tom Henderson's invitations. Should have gone to church and met people. Should have dated even if it was awkward and uncomfortable. Should have taken risks with my heart the same way I took risks with business. Should have been brave enough to be vulnerable. Should have understood that the biggest risk wasn't opening up to people, it was never opening up at all. Should have realized that dying alone is worse than any rejection, any heartbreak, any failed relationship. Should have known that an empty life is worse than a messy life. Should have figured out, while I still had time, that love and connection are the only things that matter in the end. In 2022, I did something I hadn't done in decades. I went to church. Just walked in one Sunday morning, sat in the back pew and listened to the sermon. Pastor Thomas, who had taken over when old Pastor Martin retired, talked about the parable of the rich fool. You know the one. Guy builds bigger barns to store all his wealth, thinks he's set for life, and God says, "You fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself?" I felt like he was talking directly to me, like God himself was pointing at me and saying, "Robert, you fool, you spent your whole life building bigger barns, accumulating more wealth. And for what? Who's going to get it? Who's going to care? Who's going to remember you?" After the service, Pastor Thomas came up to me and introduced himself, said he'd heard about me, knew I had the big ranch out west, asked what brought me to church after so many years. I wanted to tell him the truth, that I was dying and scared and alone and desperate for something, anything, to fill the void inside me. But I just said, I figured it was time to get back to my roots. He smiled and invited me to come back any time. Said the door was always open. I went back the next Sunday, and the next, and the one after that. Started recognizing faces. People would nod at me, say good morning. A few brave souls even tried to start conversations. There was a widow named Dorothy Martin, probably in her 70s, who always sat 3 rows in front of me. One Sunday she turned around after the service and introduced herself. Said she'd lost her husband 5 years ago and knew how hard it was to come to church alone. Asked if I'd like to join her for coffee sometime. I almost said no. Almost fell back into my pattern of pushing people away. But something made me say yes. We met at a little cafe in town the following Tuesday. Sat there for 3 hours talking. She told me about her life, her late husband, her children and grandchildren. I told her about the ranch. Didn't tell her about the loneliness, about the regrets, about the wasted life. But she knew. She looked at me with these kind, knowing eyes and said, "Robert, it's never too late to start living. Even if we're near the end, even if there's not much time left, it's never too late to open your heart." Those words broke something open inside me. Broke through all the defenses I'd built up over decades. I started crying, right there in the cafe, in front of this woman I barely knew. Just started crying and couldn't stop. She reached across the table and held my hand and didn't say anything. Just let me cry. Just held my hand and let me release 64 years of pain and loneliness and regret. Dorothy became my first real friend. We met every week for coffee. She invited me to her family's Thanksgiving that year. I sat at a table with her children and grandchildren, watched them laugh and tease each other and love each other, and felt both joy and devastating sadness. Joy because I was experiencing, for the first time, what it felt like to be part of a family, even if it wasn't my own. Sadness because I realized how much I had missed, how much I would never have. Dorothy's daughter, Catherine, asked me if I had family. I told her no, that I'd never married, never had children. She said that must be lonely. I said it was more than she could imagine. She asked why I never married, and I gave her the honest answer. Said I was too scared, too focused on work, too stupid to realize what mattered. She said it wasn't too late, that there were plenty of single women my age who would probably love to meet someone. I smiled but didn't tell her that I was dying, that my body was falling apart, that I had nothing to offer anyone except regrets and health problems. Here's my second question for you, and again I really want you to engage with this in the comments and in the description. Have you ever realized something important too late? Have you ever finally understood a truth about life just when it was too late to do anything about it? Because that's where I am. I finally understand that relationships matter more than money, that love matters more than land, that connection matters more than cattle, that being vulnerable is brave, not weak, that opening your heart is smart, not stupid, that dying surrounded by people who love you is success, and dying alone surrounded by wealth is failure. I understand all of this now, with crystal clarity, but I'm 67 years old with failing kidneys and a bad heart and diabetes that I've neglected for years. I understand it all now when there's no time left to do anything about it. Have any of you had that experience? That moment when you finally get it, but it's too late? Share your story in the comments. Tell me about your late realizations, your too late epiphanies, your final understandings. Maybe collectively we can warn others who still have time. Maybe we can save someone from learning life's most important lessons when it's too late to apply them. In 2023, I started going to a men's group at the church. Bunch of guys, various ages, meeting every Thursday night to talk about life, faith, struggles, victories. I was the oldest one there and definitely the most broken. These guys were dealing with normal problems, job stress, teenage kids, mortgage payments, marriage issues. I was dealing with a wasted life and impending death. But they welcomed me, didn't judge me, didn't preach at me, just accepted me as I was. There was a guy named Marcus, probably 45, who had just gone through a divorce. He was devastated, said he felt like his life was over, like he'd never be happy again. I wanted to shake him and say, Marcus, you're 45 years old. You have time. You can start over. You can find love again. You can build a new life. Don't waste the years you have left the way I wasted all of mine. But I didn't say that. Just listened and offered what support I could. After the meeting, he thanked me for listening and said it helped to talk to someone who understood pain. I almost laughed. Almost told him that he had no idea what real pain was, that his divorce was a paper cut compared to the self-inflicted wound I was living with, but I kept my mouth shut. Sometimes people need their pain validated, not compared. My health continued to decline through 2024, started needing dialysis 3 times a week. Dr. Reynolds brought up the possibility of a kidney transplant, but at my age, with my other health problems, I wasn't a great candidate. Plus, you need family support for a transplant. Someone to be there for the surgery, the recovery, the ongoing care. I had Dorothy, who had become incredibly important to me, but she was in her 70s and dealing with her own health issues. Couldn't ask her to take that on. So dialysis it was. 3 times a week, 4 hours at a time, hooked up to a machine that did the work my kidneys couldn't do anymore. Sitting in that clinic, watching the blood go out of my body and come back in cleaned, I had a lot of time to think, a lot of time to regret, a lot of time to imagine what my life could have been like if I had made different choices. There was a young couple at the dialysis clinic, probably in their 30s. Both of them had kidney disease, hereditary thing. They came to their appointments together, sat next to each other, held hands while the machines did their work, talked and laughed and supported each other through something that was undeniably difficult and scary. That's what I could have had. That's what I threw away. A partner to go through life's difficulties with, someone to hold hands with during the hard times, someone to laugh with even when things were terrible. I could have had that. Could have had someone sitting next to me, holding my hand, telling me it would be okay. Instead, I had a magazine I wasn't reading and nurses who were kind but busy and couldn't give me more than a few minutes of attention. This was my fault. All of it. I had created this lonely existence through decades of bad decisions and cowardice. Last month, I had everything appraised. The land, the cattle, the equipment, the house, everything. Came out to just over $18 million. $18 million that I accumulated through 48 years of relentless work. $18 million that means absolutely nothing. You can't buy back time, can't buy back opportunities, can't buy back love or family or connection, can't buy back the life you should have lived. I could give away every penny and still be the poorest man in the county because I'm bankrupt in all the ways that actually matter. No emotional wealth, no relational wealth, no legacy wealth. Just money and land that will go to strangers when I die. The appraiser, young guy named David something, was impressed, kept going on about what an incredible achievement this was, how I should be so proud, how this was generational wealth that would support my family for decades. I didn't tell him there was no family, didn't want to see the pity in his eyes, just thanked him for the appraisal and wrote him a check. After he left, I walked the property, all 8,500 acres of it. Well, I drove most of it because I can't walk like I used to, but I covered every inch, looked at everything I had built, the barns and sheds and cattle facilities, the improved pastures and water systems, the fences I had mended and replaced countless times, the trees I had planted, the structures I had erected. It was impressive, objectively speaking. It was a well-run, profitable, beautiful ranch that any cattleman would be proud to own. And it meant nothing to me. Less than nothing. It was a monument to wasted life, a testament to misplaced priorities, a shrine to fear and isolation. Looking at it all, I felt nothing but sadness and regret. I thought about burning it all down, seriously considered it, not for insurance money or attention or anything practical. Just because I wanted to destroy what I had built before, it could be taken from me and given to someone who didn't earn it, didn't sacrifice for it, didn't give up everything for it. Wanted to burn it all to ashes rather than let strangers profit from my wasted life. But I didn't, not because I couldn't bring myself to destroy it, but because even that would be meaningless. Burning it down wouldn't change anything, wouldn't give me back the years I wasted, wouldn't bring Sarah Mitchell back for a second chance, wouldn't give me the family I could have had, wouldn't ease the crushing weight of regret. It would just be one more destructive act in a life defined by destruction, even if that destruction was self-inflicted and invisible. I've been writing my will, trying to figure out what to do with $18 million when you have nobody to leave it to. Thought about giving it all to charity. Thought about leaving it to the church. Thought about setting up some kind of foundation or scholarship. But nothing feels right. Nothing feels meaningful, because the money is tainted with regret. Every dollar represents an hour I could have spent with people but didn't. Every acre represents a relationship I could have built but chose not to. Every cow represents a moment I could have been vulnerable but chose to hide instead. How do you leave a legacy when your whole life was a mistake? How do you make something positive out of decades of negative choices? How do you give meaning to wealth that was accumulated at the cost of everything that gives life meaning? Last week, I was in the hospital again. Complications from the diabetes, infection that wouldn't heal because my circulation is so bad. They kept me for 5 days, 5 days in a hospital bed, alone. Dorothy came to visit once but couldn't stay long. The nurses were kind but busy. The doctors were professional but distant. Most of the time I just lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to the machines beep, thinking about my life. In the bed next to me, separated by a curtain, was an old man named George. Had to be at least 80. He had family visiting constantly. Kids, grandkids, great-grandkids. His room was full of flowers and balloons and cards. You could hear them laughing, talking, arguing sometimes. Normal family stuff. His wife, tiny woman with white hair, never left his side. Slept in the chair next to his bed, held his hand, told him stories, reminded him of their life together. 62 years they'd been married, 62 years of partnership and love and building a life together. And there I was on the other side of the curtain, listening to what I could have had but never did, listening to what I threw away, listening to the life I should have lived. George died on my 4th day there. I heard the monitors go crazy, heard the nurses rush in, heard the family crying. But I also heard them saying goodbye, telling him they loved him, thanking him for being a good husband and father and grandfather. Heard them comfort each other, support each other, grieve together. He died surrounded by love, died knowing he mattered, died with the knowledge that he had lived a full, meaningful life. Died successfully, if death can be successful. And I lay there on the other side of the curtain, alive but already dead in all the ways that matter, knowing that when my time comes, there won't be family gathered around. Won't be anyone to say goodbye. Won't be anyone to grieve. Just me and some overworked nurses and a doctor checking a box on a form. I will die the way I lived, alone. That's when it really hit me. The full weight of what I had done to myself. I didn't just miss out on love and family. I missed out on life itself. I existed but didn't live, survived but didn't thrive, breathed and worked and accumulated but never experienced the things that make being human worthwhile. Never felt the joy of watching your children grow. Never knew the pride of teaching your kids important lessons. Never experienced the wonder of holding your grandchildren. Never had the comfort of a partner who knows you completely and loves you anyway. Never built memories with people who matter. Never created a life worth remembering. I built a fortune but died poor. That's my legacy. That's what I have to show for 67 years on this earth. Money and regret. I'm writing this now because I want someone to know. Want someone to understand the magnitude of this mistake so maybe they won't make it themselves. Want to warn anyone who's on the same path I was on that it leads nowhere good. Want to tell anyone who's choosing work over relationships, money over love, success over connection, that they're making a terrible mistake. Want to shout from the rooftops that none of it matters. Not the money, not the land, not the success, not the achievements. None of it matters if you're alone. None of it has value if there's nobody to share it with. None of it means anything in the end. If I could go back, if I could talk to my 25-year-old self, I'd tell him to call Sarah Mitchell. Tell him that the fear he feels about rejection is nothing compared to the pain of a lifetime alone. Tell him that building a ranch is fine, but building a family is better. Tell him that land can be replaced, but time cannot. Tell him that money is renewable, but opportunities for love are not. Tell him that dying rich and alone is worse than dying poor and loved. Tell him that success without relationships is failure. Tell him that he's heading for disaster and needs to change course now while there's still time. But I can't go back. Can't undo the decades of bad decisions. Can't reclaim the wasted years. Can't resurrect the opportunities I killed. Can't bring back the life I could have had but threw away. I can only sit here in this big empty house, on this big empty ranch, with my big empty bank account, and regret. That's all I have left. Regret. Here's my final question for you. And this is the most important one, so please take time to really think about it and share your answer in the comments and the description. What are you doing right now that you might regret later? What choices are you making today that your future self will wish you hadn't made? What are you prioritizing that doesn't actually matter? What are you neglecting that matters more than anything? Are you making the same mistakes I made? Are you choosing work over love, career over family, money over connection? Are you telling yourself you'll do it later, you'll make time later, you'll prioritize relationships later, because later never comes? Later is a lie. Later is how you end up like me, old and sick and alone, realizing too late that you wasted your entire life. Don't be me. Learn from my mistakes. Change course now while you still can. Choose love. Choose relationships. Choose connection. Choose vulnerability. Choose life. Because I'm telling you from experience, from painful, devastating experience, that the alternative is a hell you can't escape from. Please, drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what you're going to change. Tell me what my story has made you realize. Tell me that my wasted life can at least serve as a warning to others. Give my pain some purpose. Give my regret some meaning. Help me believe that maybe, just maybe, someone will read this and make a different choice than I made. I don't sleep much anymore. The combination of pain and regret keeps me up most nights. I lie in bed in this big empty house and listen to the silence. It's deafening. The silence of a life unlived. The silence of missed opportunities. The silence of a phone that never rings, a door that never opens, a voice that never calls my name with love. I watch the ceiling fan spin and think about all the conversations I never had. All the moments I missed, all the love I refused, all the life I wasted. Sometimes I cry. Sometimes I'm too numb to cry. Sometimes I just lie there and wait for morning. For another day of existence without life. Another day of breathing without living. Another day closer to a death that nobody will mourn. The diabetes is getting worse. Dr. Reynolds says my A1C levels are dangerously high, and I'm at severe risk for more complications. Possibly blindness. Possibly amputation. Possibly stroke. She's exhausted from trying to get me to take care of myself. I can see it in her eyes. She's a good doctor and she cares about her patients, but there's only so much she can do when a patient has given up. And I have given up. Not given up on treating the diseases. I go to dialysis, take my medications, do the minimum to stay alive. But I've given up on caring whether I live or die. I'm just going through the motions, because that's what you do. You keep breathing until you stop breathing. You keep existing until you stop existing. But there's no will to live, no reason to fight, no purpose in surviving. I'm already dead. My body just hasn't figured it out yet. Tom Henderson stopped by last week. First time I'd seen him in years. He'd heard I was sick and wanted to check on me. We sat on the porch, two old men looking out at land we'd spent our lives working, and talked, really talked, for the first time in decades. I apologized for being an ass when he tried to help me years ago. He waved it off, said he understood, said pride makes fools of us all. I asked about his family. He pulled out his phone and showed me pictures. His kids grown now with families of their own. His grandchildren, beautiful kids doing normal kid things. His great-grandchildren, babies and toddlers. His wife, Margaret, older but still smiling that same smile she'd had in all the old memories. His face lit up when he talked about them. You could see the love, the pride, the satisfaction of a life well lived. Then he asked about my family. I said I didn't have any. He went quiet. Didn't say I told you so, though he had every right to. Just sat there, quiet and sad, mourning for me the life I didn't have. Finally he said, "Robert, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you're alone. I'm sorry you're sick. I'm sorry you made the choices you made, but mostly I'm sorry that you never got to experience what I have. It's the best thing in life, the only thing that really matters, and you missed it." "I know, Tom," I said. "I know." After he left, I sat on that porch until well after dark. Thought about what he said, thought about what I'd missed, thought about the fact that my biggest accomplishment, this 8,500-acre ranch worth $18 million, meant nothing compared to Tom's family photos. He had wealth I could never buy, riches I could never acquire, success I could never achieve. He had lived. I had existed. He had loved and been loved. I had isolated and been isolated. He would die surrounded by family, mourned and missed and remembered with love. I would die alone, unmourned and unmissed, remembered only as that weird hermit guy who had the big ranch, if he was remembered at all. The cattle don't care who owns them. The land doesn't care who works it. The money doesn't care who has it. None of it cares. None of it has feelings or thoughts or consciousness. None of it will miss me when I'm gone. Only people can do that. Only people can care. Only people can mourn. Only people can remember with love, and I have no people. That's the bottom line. That's the final accounting of my life. No people. Lots of things, no people. Lots of money, no people. Lots of success, no people. And in the end, things don't matter. Money doesn't matter. Success doesn't matter. Only people matter. Only love matters. Only connection matters. And I have none of it. I've started giving things away. Not the ranch or the money. Haven't figured out what to do with that yet. But personal things, tools, equipment, stuff I won't need much longer. Gave some things to the men's group at church. Gave some things to Dorothy's grandson, who's starting his own small ranch. Gave some things to charity. Feels good to let go. Feels right to give away what I can't take with me, because you can't take any of it with you. Not the land, not the money, not the things. All of it stays here. The only things you take are the relationships you built, the love you gave and received, the connections you made. And my hands are empty. Nothing to take with me. Nothing to show for 7 decades on earth. Empty hands and an empty heart and an empty life. I think about Sarah Mitchell every day. Wonder what my life would have been like if I had called her. Wonder if we would have gotten married, had kids, built a life together. Wonder if I'd be sitting here now with pictures on my phone, showing off my grandkids to visitors. Wonder if I'd have someone lying in bed next to me, keeping me company in the dark hours. Wonder if I'd have someone to care for and someone who cared for me. Wonder if I'd die in someone's arms instead of alone. Wonder if my life would have meant something. I'll never know. Never know what could have been. Never know what I threw away when I threw away that receipt with her phone number. Never know what I lost because I was too scared to pick up the phone and dial. That might be the worst part. Not knowing what I missed. Only knowing that I missed it. Only knowing that I had a chance and blew it and can never get it back. My lawyer, guy named Richard Thompson, asked me again last week what I wanted to do with the estate. Said we really needed to finalize the will. I told him I still didn't know. He got frustrated, said, "Mr. Clayton, you're a wealthy man. You need to make decisions about your assets. This is important." I laughed. Couldn't help it. Just laughed at the absurdity of it all. He looked confused, probably thought I was losing my mind. Maybe I am. I said, "Richard, let me tell you something. I'm a wealthy man with no life. I have assets but no family. I have money but no love. I have success but no meaning. So tell me, what's the point of deciding what happens to it all? Who cares?" He said, "Well, you should care. It's your legacy." That made me laugh harder. My legacy. My legacy is dying alone in a big empty house on a big empty ranch with a big empty bank account. That's my legacy. My legacy is a cautionary tale. My legacy is what not to do with your life. My legacy is wasted opportunity and chosen isolation. That's what I'm leaving behind, not a ranch, not money, but a lesson in how to waste a perfectly good life. The truth is, I don't want anyone to have it. Don't want anyone to benefit from what cost me everything. Don't want someone to buy this place and raise a family here. Live the life I should have lived. Make memories I should have made. Don't want them to succeed where I failed. Don't want them to be happy in the house where I was miserable. I know that's selfish and petty and small. I know it's the bitterness of a dying old man who can't stand to see others have what he didn't. But it's how I feel. Would rather burn it all to the ground than hand it over to someone who will do it right. Someone who will fill this house with love and laughter. Someone who will raise children here. Someone who will build the family I never built. Someone who will succeed where I failed. Can't stand the thought of it, but I won't burn it down, won't destroy it. Because that would be one more selfish act in a life full of them. One more time putting my feelings above what's right. One more time choosing the wrong thing. So I'll probably just leave it to charity or the church or some foundation that will sell it off, and use the money for something good. Let them make something positive out of my negative. Let them create meaning from my meaninglessness. Let them build life from my death. It's the least I can do, the very least, because I can't undo what I did, can't unmake the choices I made, can't unlive the life I lived. Can only try to make sure that the wealth I accumulated through isolation and fear at least goes to something worthwhile in the end. I had another small heart attack 2 nights ago. Woke up with the pain, the sweating, the nausea. Knew what it was. Sat there on the edge of my bed and thought about just lying back down and letting it take me. Thought about how easy it would be to just let go. Stop fighting. Stop existing. Stop carrying the weight of this regret. Nobody would find me for days, maybe weeks. The cattle would be fine for a while. Nobody would miss me. Nobody would know. Could just slip away in the dark, alone, and it would all be over. But I called 911. Don't know why. Some survival instinct kicked in. Some part of me that wasn't ready to give up yet. They came, took me to the hospital, stabilized me, sent me home the next day. Dr. Cooper was on call. He said I was lucky, that next time I might not be. Said I really needed to reduce stress, improve my lifestyle, take better care of myself. How do you explain to someone that you don't take care of yourself because you don't care if you live or die? How do you tell your doctor that every morning you wake up disappointed that you woke up at all? How do you make them understand that you're not suicidal exactly, just tired of living a life that has no meaning, no purpose, no joy? You don't. You just nod and agree and take the prescriptions and go home to the big empty house and continue existing until you stop existing. I think the hardest part is knowing it's my fault. All of it. I can't blame anyone else. Can't blame circumstances or bad luck or other people. This is 100% on me. I had opportunities, I had chances, I had options, and I chose wrong. Every time. Chose isolation over connection, chose fear over courage, chose work over love, chose things over people, chose wrong, and now I'm paying the price. Now I'm living with the consequences. Now I'm dying with the regret. And I deserve it. Deserve every bit of this pain. Deserve this loneliness. Deserve this emptiness. Because I created it. I built this prison with my own hands and locked myself inside and threw away the key. Nobody did this to me. I did it to myself. Dorothy asked me yesterday if I believed in heaven. We were having our weekly coffee, and she just asked out of nowhere. I said I didn't know, that I hoped there was something after this because the idea of this being all there is was too depressing. She said she believed I'd see my parents again, that I'd be reunited with everyone who loved me. I didn't have the heart to tell her there was nobody who loved me to be reunited with. She meant well. She always means well, but she doesn't understand. She had a full life, had love, had family, has memories of happiness and connection. She's looking forward to being reunited with her husband. I'm looking forward to nothing. If there is an afterlife, I'll be alone there too, because I never built the relationships that would carry over, never created the bonds that would transcend death, never loved or was loved in a way that would survive mortality. I'll be just as alone on the other side as I am on this side. That's my eternity. Loneliness forever. The ranch foreman, guy named Miguel, who's worked here for 15 years, gave his notice last week. Said his wife's family is in Arizona, and they want to move to be closer to them. Said he appreciated the job, but family comes first. I gave him a generous severance and wished him well. After he left, I thought about what he said. Family comes first. Such a simple concept. Such an obvious truth. But I never lived by it because I never had it. Work came first for me because I had nothing else. Miguel is making the right choice. Choosing family over a job. Choosing connection over career. Choosing life over work. He's doing what I should have done 50 years ago. He'll never end up like me. He'll die surrounded by people he loves who love him back. He'll have lived a full, meaningful life. He'll have no regrets about putting family first. Good for him. I'm happy for him. And devastatingly envious. I tried to pray last night, got down on my knees, something I haven't done since I was a kid, and tried to talk to God. Asked for forgiveness, asked for peace, asked for some way to make meaning out of this mess, asked if there was any purpose to my pain, asked if my story could at least serve as a warning to others, asked if my wasted life could somehow, in some small way, prevent someone else from making the same mistakes. Didn't hear any answer. Don't know if God was listening. Don't know if God cares about the self-inflicted suffering of a foolish old man who brought all of this on himself. But I asked anyway, because what else is there to do? What else can I do except beg for some scrap of meaning, some tiny bit of purpose, some minimal redemption? I'm not asking for forgiveness from the consequences. I deserve those. Just asking for the pain to mean something, for the lesson to be learned by someone, for my failure to be someone else's success. That's all I'm asking for. It's 3 in the morning now. I'm sitting at my desk writing this, looking out the window at land I own but don't care about. In a few hours, the sun will rise on another day of dialysis or doctor's appointments or managing a ranch that will outlive me. Another day of existence without life, another day closer to the end, another day of regret and loneliness and pain, another day of living with the consequences of 50 years of bad decisions, another day of being the richest poor man in Texas, another day of having everything and nothing, another day of dying slowly in a big empty house on a big empty ranch with a big empty heart. My farm is worth $18 million. My life is worth nothing. That's the truth. That's my story. That's my warning to anyone who will listen. Don't be like me. Don't choose work over love. Don't choose money over relationships. Don't choose fear over courage. Don't choose isolation over connection. Don't wait until it's too late to realize what matters. Don't waste your life building things that don't matter, while neglecting the only things that do. Don't die alone with regrets and empty hands and an empty heart. Don't make my mistakes. Please. Learn from my pain. Let my wasted life mean something by preventing yours from being wasted too. That's all I can hope for now. That someone, somewhere, will read this and make a different choice. We'll choose love. We'll choose life. We'll choose people. We'll succeed where I failed. That's my prayer, that's my hope. That's the only possible redemption for a life as thoroughly wasted as mine. I keep telling myself that tomorrow will be different, that tomorrow I'll wake up and feel something other than regret, that tomorrow I'll find some way to make peace with the choices I made, that tomorrow the crushing weight of loneliness will lift, even just a little. But tomorrow never comes. Every day is the same. Every morning I wake up in the same empty bed, in the same empty house, surrounded by the same empty acres, carrying the same empty heart. Tomorrow is a lie I tell myself to get through today. Tomorrow is the fantasy that keeps me from completely giving up. Tomorrow is the cruel joke that lets me believe things might somehow get better when I know deep down that they won't. They can't. Because the past is unchangeable, and the future is almost over, and the present is unbearable. I've been thinking about my father a lot lately, wondering if he felt this way, wondering if he lay awake at night regretting his choices, wishing he'd been warmer, more open, more loving, wondering if he died with the same crushing regret I'm living with now. He never talked about feelings, never shared what was going on inside his head, just worked until he dropped dead of a heart attack at 63, alone in the north pasture, and nobody found him until the next morning. I remember thinking at the time that it was a fitting end for him. Died the way he lived, working and alone. Now I realize it was a tragedy. Now I understand that he probably wanted more but didn't know how to get it. Now I see that he was probably just as scared and lonely and broken as I am. Now I wish I could go back and talk to him, really talk to him, ask him if he had regrets, tell him that I understood, tell him that I loved him even though he never said it to me. But I can't. He's been dead for almost 30 years, and whatever was inside him died with him, unspoken and unshared and unresolved. Just like whatever's inside me will die with me. The cycle continues. The pattern repeats. The Clayton men die alone with their feelings locked inside. There's a young couple that bought the ranch east of mine about 6 months ago. Jake and Emily something, can't remember their last name. Early 30s, just married, full of dreams and energy and hope. They remind me of what I could have been, what I should have been. They work the land together. You see them out there together, fixing fences, moving cattle, building their life. They wave when they see me, sometimes stop by to ask advice about ranching. I give them what help I can, answer their questions, share what I've learned over the decades. Emily always thanks me with this bright, genuine smile. Jake shakes my hand firmly, respectfully. They're good kids. They're doing it right. Working hard, but also loving each other. Building a ranch and a relationship at the same time. Not sacrificing one for the other. Not making the mistake I made. I watch them sometimes from a distance and feel this mixture of happiness for them and devastating sadness for me. They have what I could have had. They're living the life I threw away. And they don't even know how lucky they are. Don't know how rare it is to have both. Don't know how easily it could all be lost if you make the wrong choices. I want to tell them. Want to pull Jake aside and say, don't ever choose the ranch over her. Don't ever prioritize work over your marriage. Don't ever take her for granted or assume she'll always be there. Because life is short and opportunities are rare and love is precious and you don't get second chances. Want to grab Emily and say, if he ever starts pulling away, if he ever seems more interested in the cattle than in you, if he ever makes work more important than your relationship, call him on it immediately. Don't let him drift. Don't let him build walls. Don't let him become like me. But I don't say any of this. Just smile and wave and answer their ranching questions and watch them drive away together in their truck, sitting close, talking and laughing. And I go back into my empty house and feel the silence close in around me like a coffin. The holidays are the worst. Thanksgiving and Christmas especially. Times when families gather, when people come together, when love is celebrated and shared. I spend them alone. Dorothy invites me to her family gatherings, and I go sometimes, but it's painful, watching other people's families, other people's happiness, other people's love. It's like looking through a window at a warm, bright room when you're standing outside in the cold and dark. You can see it, you can observe it, but you can't have it, can't be part of it, can't truly belong. You're always the outsider, the visitor, the guest who will eventually leave and go back to his cold, dark place. So sometimes I decline Dorothy's invitations and just stay home, eat a frozen dinner, watch television, pretend it's just another day, pretend I don't care, pretend it doesn't hurt. But it does hurt. It hurts more than I can express. It hurts in a deep, hollow way that has no remedy, no cure, no relief. Last Christmas, I sat alone in this house and thought about all the Christmases I'd missed, all the ones I could have had if I'd made different choices. Thought about hypothetical children opening presents. Thought about a hypothetical wife making dinner. Thought about hypothetical grandchildren running around excited about Santa Claus. Thought about all the laughter and joy and love that could have filled this house but didn't. Thought about all the memories I should have made but didn't. Thought about the Christmas mornings that should have been but weren't, and I cried. Cried like I haven't cried since I was a child. Just sat there in my recliner, in the dark, with only the Christmas tree lights on, and cried for everything I'd lost. Everything I'd thrown away. Everything I'd never had and would never have. Cried until I couldn't cry anymore. Until I was empty. Until there was nothing left but the silence and the darkness and the crushing awareness of a wasted life. Miguel's replacement started last week. Young guy named Carlos, maybe 25. Eager to learn, hard worker. Reminds me of myself at that age. Except he talks about his girlfriend constantly. Maria. Shows me pictures on his phone. Talks about their plans. They want to get married next year, start a family, build a life together. He's doing ranch work to save money for their future. I listen and nod and give him whatever wisdom I can about ranching. But what I want to tell him is that the ranch work isn't the important part. Maria is the important part. Their future together is the important part. The family they want to start is the important part. Don't let the work consume you, Carlos. Don't let the ranch become more important than Maria. Don't make the mistake I made. Don't sacrifice love for land. Don't trade relationship for cattle. Don't choose work over the woman you love. But I don't say it, because who am I to give relationship advice? Who am I to counsel anyone about love and connection when I failed so completely at both? I'm the last person who should be offering life guidance. So I stay quiet and just hope he figures it out on his own. Hope he makes better choices than I did. Hope he doesn't end up like me. The physical pain is getting worse. The neuropathy in my feet has progressed to the point where I can barely walk some days. The dialysis exhausts me. The heart medication makes me dizzy. The insulin shots are just part of the routine now. I'm falling apart, body breaking down piece by piece, and part of me is glad. Part of me welcomes it, because the end of physical existence means the end of emotional suffering. Death is coming, and I'm ready for it. Not in a suicidal way. I'm not going to kill myself, but I'm not fighting to stay alive either. I'm just letting nature take its course, letting my abused, neglected body shut down in its own time. And when it finally stops, when my heart finally gives out or my kidneys finally fail completely, or some other system decides it's had enough, I'll go quietly. Alone, as always, but quietly. And hopefully it will be over quickly. Hopefully there won't be a long, drawn-out process. Hopefully I won't end up in a nursing home or long-term care facility, surrounded by strangers, being kept alive by machines. Hopefully I'll just go to sleep one night and not wake up. Found days later by Carlos, or the mail carrier, or whoever finally notices that old man Clayton hasn't been seen in a while. That would be fine. That would be fitting. That would be the appropriate end to a life lived entirely alone. Dr. Reynolds brought up hospice last visit. Said we might want to start thinking about end-of-life care. Said with my multiple conditions and poor prognosis, it might be time to focus on comfort rather than treatment. Asked if I had advanced directives, living will, power of attorney for healthcare. Standard questions that assume you have someone in your life who could make decisions for you if you can't make them yourself. I told her I had none of that. She asked if I wanted help setting it up. I said no. She asked what I wanted done if I became incapacitated. I said I didn't know. She got that look again, that mixture of sadness and frustration that medical professionals get when they're dealing with patients who have given up. She said, "Mr. Clayton, I need you to think about these things. You need to make decisions about your care. You need to plan for the end." I said, "Dr. Reynolds, I've spent my whole life planning. Planning for the future, planning for success, planning for financial security. And you know what all that planning got me? Nothing that matters. So no, I don't want to plan for the end. When it comes, it comes. Do whatever the standard procedure is. Keep me comfortable. And when it's time, let me go. That's my plan." She didn't like that answer. Tried to push more, but I was done with the conversation. Done with planning. Done with making decisions. Done with everything. I've been reading about near-death experiences. People who died and came back. What they saw, what they felt, what they experienced. Most of them talk about feeling loved, feeling peace, feeling connected to something larger than themselves. Some talk about seeing deceased loved ones waiting for them. That must be nice. Must be comforting to think that someone's waiting for you on the other side. Someone you loved and who loved you. Someone you'll be reunited with. I won't have that. Won't have anyone waiting. Won't have any joyful reunions. If there is an afterlife, I'll arrive alone, just like I lived. The thought doesn't scare me as much as it saddens me. Even death, even the ultimate transition, even that final journey, I'll make alone. No hand to hold. No familiar face to welcome me. No love to receive me. Just me, transitioning from one form of loneliness to another. From earthly isolation to eternal isolation. From temporal aloneness to permanent aloneness. It's fitting, I suppose, consistent. The logical conclusion to a life lived in self-imposed exile. I wonder sometimes what Sarah Mitchell's life turned out like. Is she happy? Did she have a good marriage? Does she have children and grandchildren? Does she ever think about the awkward guy who used to come into the feed store, who seemed interested but never asked her out? Probably not. Probably forgot about me within weeks of moving away. Why would she remember? We barely knew each other. Had a few pleasant conversations, and that was it. She moved on with her life, found someone else, built the life she wanted. I'm the only one still stuck in that moment, still wondering what if, still regretting not calling, still carrying the weight of that lost opportunity 40 years later. That's the thing about regret. It doesn't fade, doesn't diminish, doesn't get easier with time. It just sits there, heavy and constant, a permanent burden you carry until you die. The men's group at church has been studying the book of Ecclesiastes. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. What does a man gain by all the toil at which he toils under the sun? A generation goes and a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. I feel those words in my bones. Feel the weight of their truth. I toiled my whole life, worked harder than most people, built something impressive by worldly standards. And what did I gain? Nothing permanent, nothing that matters. Nothing that will outlast me. The earth will remain, the ranch will remain, but I'll be gone. Forgotten. Erased. Like I was never here. All my toil, all my sacrifice, all my work, meaningless in the end. Vanity. That ancient writer understood what it took me 70 years to figure out. That earthly achievement without human connection is emptiness. That success without love is failure. That accumulation without relationship is vanity. All is vanity. But the book doesn't end there. The end conclusion is to fear God and keep His commandments, to find meaning not in earthly achievement, but in relationship with the divine and with each other. I missed that second part, failed completely at human relationship, and now I'm trying, in these final days, to establish some connection with God. Some relationship with something larger than myself, some meaning beyond money and land. It's probably too late. Probably can't make up for 7 decades of neglect in a few months or years. But I'm trying. Going to church, praying, reading, seeking, hoping that maybe, just maybe, there's some redemption available even for someone who wasted their entire life. Hoping that God is more forgiving than I am. Hoping that there's grace for fools. Hoping that my ending can be better than my middle, even if my beginning and middle were disasters. Carlos asked me yesterday why I never married. Direct question from a young man who doesn't yet understand that some questions are too painful to answer honestly. I gave him the easy answer. Said I was too focused on building the ranch, too busy with work, never found the right person. He accepted that, nodded, said he understood. But then he said something that hit me hard. He said, "But Mr. Clayton, what's the point of building something if you have nobody to share it with? What's the point of all this," he gestured at the ranch, "if you're alone?" Out of the mouths of babes, this 25-year-old kid, probably never read a philosophy book in his life, just articulated the central tragedy of my existence. What's the point of all this if you're alone? There is no point, Carlos. No point at all. That's what I've been trying to tell you without actually telling you. That's the lesson I'm trying to teach, without having to speak it out loud. There is no point to any of this without people to share it with. No point to success without love. No point to achievement without connection. No point to building an empire if you die alone in it. But I didn't say that. Just smiled sadly and said, "You're right, Carlos. You're absolutely right. Make sure you don't make that mistake." He looked confused. I changed the subject. I've started writing letters I'll never send. Letters to Sarah Mitchell, telling her I'm sorry I never called. Letters to Tom Henderson, thanking him for trying to be my friend. Letters to my father, telling him I understand now why he was the way he was. Letters to my younger self, warning him about the path he's on. Letters to no one and everyone, pouring out thoughts and feelings I never expressed when it mattered. It's pointless, I know. Therapeutic maybe, but pointless. The letters won't change anything, won't fix anything, won't undo anything. They're just words on paper that nobody will ever read. But I write them anyway, because what else am I going to do with the time I have left? Might as well use it to say the things I should have said decades ago, even if I'm only saying them to myself. The appraiser called last week, said he had a client who might be interested in buying the ranch, asked if I'd consider selling. I said no. He asked why not, said I could make a lot of money, move somewhere easier, enjoy my retirement. I almost laughed. Enjoy my retirement. Doing what? Being alone in a different location? Having no life in a smaller house? Dying friendless in a city instead of dying friendless on a ranch? What difference does it make where I am? Loneliness is portable. Regret travels well. Meaninglessness doesn't change with geography. I'm keeping the ranch not because I love it, but because I have nothing else. It's my entire identity, my whole life, my complete existence. Without it, I'm not even nothing. I'm less than nothing. So no, I won't sell. I'll die here, on this land, surrounded by the monuments to my wasted life. It's fitting. It's appropriate. It's what I deserve. Emily from next door stopped by 2 days ago, said she was worried about me, noticed I hadn't been out much lately, wanted to check that I was okay. I invited her in for coffee, and we sat at my kitchen table and talked. She asked about my health. I was honest. Told her about the diabetes, the heart problems, the kidney failure. She looked genuinely sad. Asked if there was anything she and Jake could do to help. I said no, but I appreciated the offer. Then she asked the question everyone asks eventually. She said, "Do you have family who can help you, who can be there for you?" And I gave her the truth. Said, "No, I never married, never had kids, don't have family." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "That must be really hard." And something about the way she said it, the genuine compassion in her voice, just broke me. I started crying. Right there at my kitchen table, in front of this woman I barely know, I just started crying. She reached across the table and held my hand and didn't say anything, just held my hand while I cried. When I finally pulled myself together, I apologized. She said, "Don't apologize," said everyone needs to cry sometimes. Then she said something I'll never forget. She said, "Mr. Clayton, you don't have to be alone. You have neighbors who care about you. You have a community. You have people who would be there for you if you let them. You've spent your whole life pushing people away. But it's not too late to stop. It's never too late." I wanted to believe her. Wanted to think that maybe even now, even this late, I could make some connections, build some relationships, find some small measure of the community I'd rejected for so long. But I don't know if I can. Don't know if I have it in me. Don't know if there's enough time, Don't know if I even deserve it after all the years I spent pushing everyone away, but I'm trying. Small steps. Accepted an invitation to have dinner with Jake and Emily next week. Said yes when Dorothy asked me to go with her to a church social event. Stopped Carlos yesterday and asked about Maria, really asked, really listened to his answer. It's not much. It's probably too little too late. But it's something. It's an attempt, however feeble, to not die completely alone. An attempt to create in these final days or months or years some small connection to the human race. An attempt to experience, even briefly, what I missed my entire life. I don't know if it will work. Don't know if I'm capable of real connection after so many decades of isolation. Don't know if you can learn at 67 what you should have learned at 17. But I'm trying. Because Emily was right. It's not too late to stop being alone. It's not too late to let people in. It's not too late to experience at least some small measure of what I missed, even if it's just a few months or years, even if it's just friendship, rather than the deep family bonds I'll never have. Even if it's just a glimpse of what could have been. It's better than nothing. Better than dying without ever knowing what connection feels like. Better than leaving this world having never truly let another person in. This is where I want to ask you my third and final question, and I really need you to think deeply about this one and share your answer in the comments and the description. Is it ever too late? Is it ever truly too late to change, to open up, to connect with others, to start living instead of just existing? I'm 67 years old, sick, dying, alone. Is it too late for me? And more importantly, if you're younger, healthier, have more time, what's your excuse? If it's not too late for me, it's definitely not too late for you. So what's stopping you? What walls have you built? What fears are controlling you? What work are you prioritizing over relationships? What's keeping you from fully living? Because I'm telling you, from the perspective of someone at the end, none of it matters. None of the excuses, none of the rationalizations, none of the reasons you give yourself for not opening up, not being vulnerable, not connecting. None of it matters in the end. Only the relationships matter. Only the love matters. Only the connections matter. Please share your thoughts. Tell me if you think it's too late. Tell me what you're going to change. Tell me that you understand what I'm trying to say. Give my pain purpose. Give my story meaning. Help me believe that maybe I can still salvage something from these final days and that you can avoid ending up where I am. I had dinner with Jake and Emily last night. First time I've had a home-cooked meal with other people in years. Emily made pot roast, potatoes, vegetables. We sat around their table and they talked about their plans for the ranch, their dreams for the future. Jake asked my advice on various things and I gave it. Emily showed me pictures from their wedding last year. They looked so happy, so full of hope, so completely unaware of how fragile it all is, how easily it could be lost, how precious what they have truly is. After dinner, we sat on their porch and watched the sun set. Jake had his arm around Emily. They fit together perfectly, comfortably, naturally. And I sat there watching them, watching the sun paint the sky in shades of orange and red and purple, and I felt something I haven't felt in decades. I felt almost happy. Not completely happy because the regret is still there, the awareness of what I missed is still there, but almost happy, almost content, almost at peace. For just that moment, sitting on that porch with those good people, watching that beautiful sunset, I felt connected to something larger than myself, felt part of something, felt less alone. It didn't erase the decades of loneliness, didn't undo the wasted years, didn't fix anything fundamental, but it gave me a glimpse, a small, brief glimpse of what life could have been like if I'd made different choices. And that glimpse, as painful as it was also beautiful. I'm running out of time. Can feel it in my bones, in the increasing weakness, in the way my body is slowly shutting down. Maybe months, maybe weeks, probably not years. Dr. Reynolds doesn't say it directly, but I can see it in her eyes. The clock is running out. The end is approaching. And I'm trying in these final days to do something meaningful, to connect, to open up, to let people in, to experience some small measure of what I missed. It's terrifying. Letting people see the real me, the broken, lonely, scared me, is the hardest thing I've ever done. Harder than building a ranch. Harder than accumulating wealth. harder than anything I've ever attempted, because it requires vulnerability, requires admitting I need people, requires acknowledging that I was wrong, that I wasted my life, that I'm not the strong, independent, self-sufficient man I pretended to be, requires showing weakness. And I was raised to believe that weakness is unacceptable, that needing others is shameful, that asking for help is failure. But I'm doing it anyway, because the alternative is dying completely alone, and I've decided, finally, belatedly, too late, that I don't want that. I want someone to care when I'm gone, want someone to notice I'm missing, want someone to grieve, even a little, want my death to matter to someone, to mean something to someone, to leave some small mark on someone's life. Dorothy took me to the church social last Sunday. Room full of people, most of whom I didn't know. They were friendly, welcoming, asked about me, my ranch, my life. I gave the surface-level answers, didn't go into the deep stuff, didn't share the pain. But I was there, I showed up, I participated, however minimally, and it felt strange and awkward and uncomfortable, and also strangely good. Good to be around people, good to be part of something, good to feel like I belonged, even if just for a few hours. Pastor Thomas introduced me to various people. There was a widower named Frank, about my age, who lost his wife 2 years ago. We talked about loss, about loneliness, about getting older. He said his kids live out of state and don't visit much. He's alone too, though not in the way I am. He had love once, had family once, lost it, different from never having it at all. But we connected over the shared experience of loneliness, made plans to get coffee sometime, exchanged phone numbers, small steps, baby steps, but steps nonetheless. Carlos brought Maria by yesterday to meet me. Sweet girl, pretty, kind eyes. They stood in my kitchen holding hands, looking at each other with that unmistakable expression of young love. She thanked me for giving Carlos a job, said they were saving money for the wedding. I congratulated them, wished them well. After they left, I sat at my kitchen table and thought about what it would have been like to be young and in love, to have someone look at me the way Maria looks at Carlos, to hold hands and make plans and dream about the future together, to have that excitement, that joy, that sense of possibility. I never had it, never experienced it, never even got close, and I never will. That ship has sailed, that opportunity is gone. That part of life passed me by completely. I can make friends now, can build some connections, can experience some level of community. But romantic love, that deep, intimate, passionate connection between two people, that's lost to me forever, and that hurts. Hurts in a way I can barely articulate. Hurts in a deep, permanent way that has no remedy. I've been giving things away more deliberately now, calling it estate planning, but really I'm just trying to make sure that the few people who have shown me kindness get something. Dorothy is getting my mother's jewelry. Emily and Jake are getting some ranch equipment they need. Carlos is getting my tools. Frank is getting my book collection. Pastor Thomas is getting a substantial donation for the church. The men's group is getting funding for their activities. I'm trying to spread it around, trying to make sure that my money, since it's all I have, goes to people who have treated me with kindness and compassion in these final days. Trying to give back in the only way I can. Trying to create some positive from all this negative. It's not enough. Not nearly enough to make up for a lifetime of taking and never giving, of receiving and never reciprocating, but it's what I have. It's all I have, money and things. So I'm giving them away, hoping that maybe in some small way it will mean something. The ranch itself is going to a conservation trust. Decided that yesterday. They'll preserve it, protect it, make sure it doesn't get subdivided or developed. It will remain intact, a piece of wild Texas land, forever. That feels right. Better than letting it go to auction. Better than watching it get carved up and destroyed. It will outlast me, will remain after I'm gone, will continue to exist long after everyone who knew me is dead. It's not the family legacy I should have created, but it's something. A different kind of legacy. An environmental legacy rather than a familial one. The land will be protected. The wildlife will have habitat. Future generations will be able to experience it. That has to count for something. Has to mean something. It's the best I can do with what I have. The best legacy I can create from a life that created nothing else of lasting value. I'm tired, Bone tired, soul tired, tired of fighting, tired of existing, tired of carrying the weight of regret, tired of waking up every morning to the same empty house and empty life, tired of the pain, both physical and emotional, tired of dialysis and medications and doctor appointments, tired of looking in the mirror and seeing a failure, tired of lying awake at night thinking about everything I lost, everything I never had, everything I threw away, just tired, ready for it to be over, ready for the struggle to end, ready for the pain to stop, ready for the peace that only death can bring, not suicidal, not planning anything, just ready, ready to let go, ready to stop fighting a battle that was lost decades ago, ready to accept the inevitable, ready to face whatever comes next, whether it's eternal loneliness or blessed nothingness or some kind of redemption I don't deserve. But before I go, I need to say this one more time. To anyone reading this, anyone listening to this, anyone who might learn from my mistakes, don't live like I did. Don't choose work over love. Don't choose money over relationships. Don't choose fear over courage. Don't isolate yourself. Don't build walls. Don't push people away. Don't tell yourself you'll do it later, that you'll make time for connection later, that you'll prioritize relationships later. Later never comes. Do it now. Love now. Connect now. Be vulnerable now. Take the risk now. Make the call now. Go on the date now. Open your heart now. Because time runs out. Life ends. Opportunities disappear. And you'll end up like me, old and sick and alone, with millions of dollars and zero meaning, with a huge ranch and a tiny life, with all the success in the world and none of the things that make success worthwhile. You'll end up with regrets so heavy they crush you, with loneliness so profound it breaks you, with awareness so painful it destroys you. Don't be me. Please, don't be me. My farm is worth $18 million. My life is worth nothing. But maybe, just maybe, my story is worth something. Maybe my pain can prevent yours. Maybe my failure can inform your success. Maybe my wasted life can help you not waste yours. That's my hope. That's my prayer. That's the only possible redemption for 7 decades of mistakes. That someone somewhere will read this and change course, will make different choices, will choose love, will choose life, will choose connection, will succeed where I failed, will have the courage I lacked, will build the life I should have built. That's all I can hope for now. That my ending can be someone else's beginning. That my death can somehow contribute to someone else's life. That my darkness can somehow illuminate someone else's path. That's it. That's all. That's the only meaning I can extract from this meaningless existence. Please, don't waste your life like I wasted mine. Don't die alone like I'm going to die. Don't carry regrets like I'm carrying. Don't miss out on love like I missed out. Please, learn from me, let my story matter, give my pain purpose, that's all I'm asking. That's my final request. That's my desperate hope as I sit here in this big empty house on this big empty ranch with my big empty heart waiting for the end. This morning I woke up at 3 a.m. like I always do, except this time I didn't get out of bed. Just lay there in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, listening to the house settle and creak around me. This house has been here for almost 100 years. My grandfather built it. My father expanded it. I modernized it. 3 generations of Clayton men poured their lives into this structure. And for what? So it could stand empty and silent, a monument to loneliness? So it could house a dying old man who has no one to pass it on to? The walls have absorbed decades of silence. If walls could talk, mine would have nothing to say. No laughter echoing through the halls. No children running up and down the stairs. No conversations over dinner. No arguments or reconciliations. No life. Just silence. Oppressive, suffocating silence that presses down on me like a physical weight. I finally got up around 5 and made coffee. My hands shake now when I pour. Side effect of the medications, or maybe just old age catching up with me. Sat at the kitchen table. Same table my father sat at. Same table I've sat at for almost 50 years. And drank my coffee alone. The sun came up, like it does every day, indifferent to my suffering, indifferent to my regrets, indifferent to my existence. The cattle needed checking. The ranch doesn't stop operating just because I'm falling apart. So I got dressed slowly, painfully, every joint protesting, every movement requiring effort. Went out to the barn where Carlos was already working. He's a good kid, reliable, shows up early, takes pride in his work. Everything I should appreciate, everything I should be grateful for. But all I can think is that he gets to go home to Maria every night, gets to hold someone, gets to love someone, gets to experience what I never will. Tom Henderson called yesterday afternoon. Haven't heard from him in weeks. He was calling to check on me, said he'd heard from Emily that I wasn't doing well. I told him I was fine, just the usual health problems, nothing new. He didn't believe me, said Robert. I've known you for 45 years. I can tell when you're lying. I admitted I wasn't doing great, that the health problems were piling up, that I was tired. He said he wanted to come visit, bring Margaret, spend an afternoon together. I almost said no. Almost fell back into the old pattern of pushing people away. But I said yes, said that would be nice. We set a date for next Sunday. After I hung up, I sat there holding the phone and realized something. Tom has been trying to be my friend for decades. Decades. Despite me pushing him away, despite me being cold and distant, despite me rejecting his invitations and his kindness, he's still trying, still calling, still caring, still being a better friend to me than I ever was to him. And I wasted 40 years of potential friendship because I was too proud, too scared, too stupid to accept what he was offering. How many memories could we have made? How many afternoons could we have spent together? How many conversations could we have had? How much loneliness could I have avoided if I'd just said yes instead of always saying no? There's a photo album in my desk drawer. My mother's photo album. She died when I was 12. Cancer took her quick and brutal. The album is full of pictures of her and my father, back when they were young, back before I was born. They're smiling in most of the pictures. Look happy. Look like they loved each other, at least in the beginning. I don't remember them being happy, don't remember affection between them. By the time I was old enough to form memories, whatever they had was gone, replaced by silence and distance and separate lives lived under the same roof. My father became cold after she died. Or maybe he was always cold and she was the warmth. I don't know. I never asked, never talked to him about her, about their relationship, about what happened to them. Just another conversation I should have had but didn't. Just another opportunity for connection I let slip away. I look at those old photos sometimes and wonder what happened. What turned two young people who looked so in love into two strangers sharing a house? Was it the harsh reality of ranch life? Was it money problems? Was it my father's inability to express emotion? Was it something else entirely? I'll never know. They took their story to their graves, and I'm about to take mine. 3 generations of Clayton men, all dying with our truths unspoken, our feelings unexpressed, our hearts unopened. It's a family tradition, a legacy of emotional constipation. A generational curse of isolation and silence, and I'm the last one, the end of the line, the final Clayton. When I die, the name dies with me, the bloodline ends, the family tree stops, and good riddance. The world doesn't need more men like us, doesn't need more emotionally stunted, relationship-averse, work-obsessed fools who die alone, surrounded by things they can't take with them. Dr. Reynolds wants me to start hospice care. Brought it up again last visit. Said my quality of life would improve with the right support. Said hospice isn't about giving up. It's about living as well as possible for whatever time remains. Said they could help with pain management, with daily living activities, with emotional and spiritual support. Said they're experienced in helping people who don't have family support. I told her I'd think about it. Haven't called them yet. Haven't made the arrangements. Because calling hospice means admitting the end is near. Means accepting that I'm dying. Means giving up on the fantasy that maybe things will somehow get better. Means facing the reality I've been avoiding. And I'm not quite ready for that yet. Not quite ready to make it official. Not quite ready to start counting down the days. Still clinging to the illusion that I have time, that things might change, that maybe I can still fix something. Even though I know it's too late. Even though I know time has run out. even though I know nothing is going to change. Still clinging to hope like a drowning man clinging to a piece of driftwood, had another dizzy spell this morning. Was walking to the barn, and suddenly the world tilted, legs went weak, had to grab onto a fence post to keep from falling. Stood there for maybe 5 minutes, breathing hard, waiting for it to pass. Carlos saw me and came running over, asked if I was okay, if he should call someone. I waved him off, said I was fine, just got up too fast. He didn't look convinced, but went back to work. These spells are happening more frequently. The doctor says it's the blood pressure medication, or maybe the diabetes affecting my circulation, or maybe my heart struggling. Could be any combination of things, could be everything failing at once, body shutting down system by system. And I'm just supposed to live with it, supposed to adjust, supposed to accept this new normal of weakness and dizziness and pain, supposed to be okay with the fact that my body is betraying me. But I'm not okay with it. Not okay with being weak. Not okay with needing help. Not okay with losing control. Pride. That's what it comes down to. Still too proud to accept help. Still too proud to admit I need people. Still too proud to be vulnerable. Pride killed my chance at love. Pride killed my friendships. Pride killed my life. And it's going to kill my body too. Emily brought over a casserole yesterday, said she made extra and thought I might like some. I thanked her and invited her in. We sat and talked for a while. She asked about my family again, gently this time, like she knew it was a sensitive subject. I told her the truth. Told her about never marrying, about being too focused on the ranch, about pushing people away. Told her about Sarah Mitchell, about the receipt with the phone number I never called. Told her about all the missed opportunities. She listened without judgment. When I finished, she said something that hit me hard. She said, "Mr. Clayton, you can't change the past, but you don't have to let it define your future. You still have time. Maybe not a lot, but some. You can still make connections. You can still experience love, even if it's not romantic love. You can still matter to people. You already matter to me and Jake. You matter to Dorothy. You matter to the people at church. You're not as alone as you think you are. If you just let people in." Those words keep echoing in my head. You're not as alone as you think you are. If you just let people in. Am I still doing it? Am I still pushing people away even now, even when I'm trying to connect? Am I so conditioned to isolation that I can't even recognize connection when it's being offered? Emily is right. I do matter to some people now. A small circle, but it exists. People who didn't have to care but chose to anyway. People who see my brokenness and reach out anyway. People who offer kindness even though I've done nothing to deserve it. And what am I doing with that? Am I accepting it fully? Am I reciprocating? Am I allowing myself to truly connect? Or am I still holding back, still protecting myself, still keeping walls up even as I pretend to tear them down? I don't know. I honestly don't know. 70 years of conditioning don't disappear overnight. 70 years of self-protection don't evaporate just because you finally recognize they're hurting you. Old habits die hard, and I'm the oldest, hardest habit there is. Frank and I had coffee this morning, met at the same cafe where Dorothy and I first talked. He told me about his wife, Martha. They were married for 42 years before she died of lung cancer. He showed me pictures on his phone, wedding photos, vacation photos, family photos, a life well lived, a love well spent. 42 years of partnership and companionship and mutual support. He cried when he talked about her, not ashamed to cry in public, not embarrassed to show emotion, not worried about appearing weak, just a man grieving the loss of his wife, his partner, his best friend. And I sat there across from him envying his tears, envying his grief, because grief means you had something worth losing. Grief means you loved and were loved. Grief means you experienced the very thing that makes life meaningful. I have nothing to grieve, no lost love, no departed partner, no deceased companion. I have regret instead of grief, emptiness instead of loss, nothing instead of something, and nothing is so much worse than loss. Frank asked me what I regret most. Direct question, no dancing around it. I thought for a long time before answering, finally said, I regret not calling Sarah Mitchell, regret not giving love a chance. Regret choosing fear over courage. Regret building a ranch instead of a family. Regret dying alone when I could have lived connected. He nodded, understanding. Then he said something I needed to hear. He said, "Robert, regret is just love with nowhere to go. All that regret you're carrying is actually love that you never got to express. You have love inside you. You always did. You just never let it out. It's not too late to let it out now. You can't have romantic love at this stage, but you can have friendship love, community love, brotherly love. You can still love and be loved, just in different ways than you imagined. Don't waste your remaining time regretting the past. Use it to create something in the present." Those words broke something open inside me. Regret is just love with nowhere to go. I have spent my entire life bottling up love, pushing down emotions, refusing to express affection. And all that unexpressed love turned toxic, turned into regret and bitterness and self-loathing. But Frank's right. It's still love. It can still be expressed. It can still be given, just in different forms. I'm going to try. Really try. Not just go through the motions, but actually open up. Actually let people in. Actually express what I feel instead of always hiding it. It's terrifying. Every fiber of my being resists it. Every defense mechanism I've built over 7 decades screams at me to stop, to protect myself, to maintain the walls. But I'm going to try anyway. Because what do I have to lose? My dignity? Already lost? My pride? Worthless? My self-image as a strong, independent man? A lie. I have nothing left to protect and everything to gain. Even if I only have months left, even if it's too late to undo the past, I can at least experience some measure of connection before the end. Can at least know what it feels like to be truly open with another human being. Can at least die knowing I tried, even if I failed for most of my life. Pastor Thomas came by this afternoon, said he wanted to check on me, see how I was doing spiritually. We sat on my porch and talked about faith, about death, about redemption. I asked him if God forgives wasted lives. He said God forgives everything if we truly repent and seek forgiveness. But I asked, what about consequences? What about the natural consequences of bad decisions? God can forgive me for wasting my life, but that doesn't give me back the life I wasted. Doesn't give me a wife or children or grandchildren, doesn't undo the loneliness, doesn't fix anything practical. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "You're right. Forgiveness doesn't erase consequences, but it does offer peace, and it does offer hope for what comes next. You can't change your past, Robert, but you can change how you approach your death. You can die bitter and full of regret, or you can die at peace, having made whatever amends you can make, having connected however you can connect. The choice is yours." Is it, though? Is it really a choice? Can I just decide to be at peace? Can I just choose to let go of regret? Doesn't feel like a choice. Feels like a burden I can't put down, no matter how hard I try. The weight of wasted years, lost opportunities, roads not taken. How do you make peace with that? How do you accept that you threw away your one chance at life? How do you forgive yourself for unforgivable stupidity? Pastor Thomas says faith helps, says prayer helps, says God's grace is sufficient. And maybe he's right. Maybe if I had more faith, better faith, stronger faith, I could find peace. But my faith is weak, flickering, uncertain. I'm trying to believe, trying to trust, trying to accept that there's meaning beyond this mess. But it's hard. So hard. When you've spent 70 years relying only on yourself, trusting only your own judgment, believing only in what you can see and touch and measure, it's hard to suddenly surrender to something intangible. Hard to trust in grace you can't quantify. Hard to believe in forgiveness you don't deserve. Tom and Margaret came over Sunday like they promised, brought a picnic lunch. We sat out by the pond, the 3 of us, eating sandwiches and talking. Margaret is exactly as I remembered her from 40 years ago. Older, obviously, grey hair and wrinkles, but the same warm smile, same kind eyes, same gentle spirit. She asked about my health, and I was honest. Told them about the kidney failure, the heart problems, the prognosis. They both got quiet. Then Tom said, "Robert, you need to let people help you. You can't do this alone. I know you're used to being independent, but you need support now. We want to be there for you." Margaret nodded, said they'd be honored to help however they could, and I felt it again. That crack in my armor, that breaking down of walls, that terrifying, wonderful feeling of being cared for. I thanked them, told them I appreciated it more than they knew, and I meant it. For once in my life I was letting people in without immediately pushing them away. For once I was accepting help without seeing it as weakness. Small progress, but progress nonetheless. After they left, I walked the property again, slower this time, stopped frequently to rest, looked at everything with different eyes. This land that I've poured my life into, these acres I've accumulated, this empire I've built. And I realized something. The land doesn't care about me. Never did. Never will. It existed before me and will exist after me. I'm just a temporary steward, a brief caretaker in the long history of this earth. The land will be fine without me. Better probably under the Conservation Trust. Protected, preserved, allowed to be what it naturally is without constant human intervention and manipulation. I thought I was building something permanent. Thought I was creating a legacy. But I was just rearranging dirt and grass and water, just moving things around temporarily before nature reclaims it all. The only permanent things in life are relationships, love, the impact we have on other people's hearts and souls. And in that regard, I built nothing, created nothing, left nothing but cautionary tales and regrets. Carlos gave his 2 weeks' notice today, got a better offer at a bigger ranch. More money, more opportunity. I congratulated him, told him he should take it. He seemed relieved that I wasn't upset. Asked if I'd write him a recommendation. I said of course. Asked him to bring Maria by before they leave. Want to give them a wedding gift. After he walked away, I stood there thinking about beginnings and endings. He's at the beginning of his life, his career, his relationship, full of hope and possibility. I'm at the end of mine, full of regret and missed chances. 2 men on the same piece of land, separated by 40 years and an entire lifetime of different choices. I hope he does it right. Hope he marries Maria and raises a family and prioritizes them over work. Hope he learns from my mistakes without having to live them. Hope he builds a life worth living instead of just an empire worth having. The nightmares are getting worse. Wake up almost every night now, heart pounding, covered in sweat. Sometimes I'm dreaming about dying alone. Sometimes I'm dreaming about Sarah Mitchell and what could have been. Sometimes I'm dreaming about being buried alive, trapped in darkness, no one hearing my screams. The dreams vary, but the theme is constant. Isolation, loneliness, being unseen, unheard, unloved, unmissed. My subconscious processing the reality my conscious mind tries to avoid. I'm going to die soon, probably alone despite my recent attempts at connection, probably unmourned except by a handful of people who barely knew me, probably forgotten within a generation. And some part of me is screaming about it every night, trying to wake me up, trying to make me change something, fix something, do something. But what can I do? Time's almost up. The game is almost over. The credits are about to roll. Too late for grand gestures or major changes. Too late for anything except acceptance. Dorothy called this morning. Her grandson is getting married next month. She invited me to the wedding. I hesitated, started to make excuses, then caught myself. This is exactly what I've always done. This is the pattern that destroyed my life. Someone reaches out, offers inclusion, extends an invitation to be part of something, and I find a reason to say no, find an excuse to stay isolated, find a way to maintain the walls. Not this time. I said yes, said I'd be honored to attend. She sounded genuinely happy, said it would mean a lot to her and her family to have me there. After I hung up, I sat there thinking about weddings. Never been to many, always had excuses, always too busy with the ranch, always something more important to do. How many celebrations have I missed? How many opportunities to share in other people's joy have I rejected? How many invitations have I declined that could have led to friendships, connections, relationships? How many times have I chosen isolation when connection was freely offered? I'm going to the wedding, going to wear my good suit, probably have it tailored since I've lost weight, going to show up and celebrate with people I barely know. Going to step outside my comfort zone and be part of something bigger than myself. Going to experience joy vicariously through Dorothy's family, since I have no joy of my own. And maybe, just maybe, it will give me a glimpse of what my own life could have included if I'd made different choices. Maybe it will hurt, probably will hurt, seeing young love, seeing families together, seeing the life I didn't live. But I'm going anyway. Because pain that comes from engagement with life is better than numbness that comes from isolation. Because regret for trying is better than regret for never trying. Because dying having experienced something is better than dying having experienced nothing. The house feels different lately, smaller somehow, less like a fortress and more like a prison. These walls that I thought protected me actually confined me. This isolation I thought was strength was actually weakness. This independence I thought was admirable was actually just fear dressed up as virtue. I was so proud of not needing anyone, so proud of being self-sufficient, so proud of making it on my own. But there's nothing admirable about dying alone, nothing strong about pushing everyone away, nothing independent about being so scared of rejection that you reject first, reject always, reject everyone. I was a coward masquerading as a cowboy, a frightened little boy pretending to be a strong man, a fraud who convinced himself his weakness was strength. Tom brought over some old photo albums yesterday, pictures from community events over the years, barbecues, festivals, gatherings. I'm in some of the pictures from the early years, standing off to the side, not quite part of the group, looking uncomfortable, looking like I'd rather be anywhere else, looking like someone who doesn't belong. And I realize now that the reason I didn't belong wasn't because others excluded me. It was because I excluded myself. I stood apart by choice. I made myself the outsider. I created my own isolation and then resented others for it. Later pictures don't include me at all. By the 90s, I'd stopped going to events entirely, just disappeared from the community. And apparently nobody noticed, or if they did, they figured I wanted to be left alone. Which I did. Which I made very clear through my actions and my attitude and my constant rejections. I taught people not to invite me, trained them to exclude me, and now I'm bitter about the exclusion I created. The irony would be funny if it wasn't so tragic. Had to call an ambulance yesterday. Another spell, but worse this time. Passed out completely, woke up on the kitchen floor with Carlos standing over me, looking terrified. Spent 6 hours in the emergency room. They ran tests, adjusted medications, told me I need to be more careful. Dr. Cooper came by, looked at my charts, looked at me, and just shook his head. Said, "Robert, you're playing with fire. These episodes are warning signs. Your body is telling you something. You need to slow down, accept help, make arrangements. I know you don't want to hear this, but you're running out of time. Make peace with that. Make decisions while you still can. Stop being so stubborn and let people help you." I nodded, agreed, said all the right things, but inside I was screaming, because he's right. Time's running out, the end is approaching, and I'm not ready to die, not ready to let go, not ready to face whatever comes next, not ready to close the book on this pathetic excuse for a life. They wanted to keep me overnight for observation. I refused, signed the AMA forms, left against medical advice, got a ride home from Emily, who they'd called because I was listed as living alone with no family. She didn't lecture me, just drove me home in silence, helped me into the house, made sure I had what I needed. Before she left, she hugged me. Just wrapped her arms around me and hugged me tight, and I stood there stiffly, awkwardly, not knowing what to do with my arms, not knowing how to receive affection, not knowing how to accept love. She whispered, "Please take care of yourself, Mr. Clayton. We care about you." Then she left, and I sat in my recliner and cried, because I don't know how to receive care, don't know how to accept love, don't know how to be vulnerable enough to let people truly in. 70 years of conditioning don't disappear just because you want them to. 70 years of walls don't crumble just because you recognize they're hurting you. Change is hard. Real change is agonizingly hard. And I'm running out of time to learn. This is it. This is where my story ends. Not with grand redemption or miraculous transformation. Not with everything fixed or resolved or healed, just with an old man trying, failing, trying again. An old man who wasted most of his life, but is attempting to make his final days matter. An old man who built an empire worth millions, but a life worth nothing. An old man who finally understands what matters, but doesn't have time to do anything about it. This is my legacy, not the ranch or the money or the accumulated wealth, but this story, this warning, this cautionary tale about what happens when you choose wrong, when you prioritize wrong, when you value wrong. When you build barns but not relationships, when you accumulate acres but not memories, when you make money but not meaning. My farm is worth $18 million. My life is worth nothing, but maybe my story is worth something to you. Maybe you can learn from my mistakes. Maybe you can choose differently. Maybe you can avoid my fate. That's all I have left to offer. The wreckage of my life as a lesson for yours. The ashes of my existence as fertilizer for yours. My failure as a roadmap of what not to do. Don't be me. Please, for the love of God and all that's holy, don't be me. Choose love. Choose connection. Choose vulnerability. Choose life. While you still have time, while you still have a chance, while you still can avoid the crushing weight of regret that I carry every single day. Learn from me. Let my wasted life give your life meaning. That's my final request, my dying wish, my desperate prayer. Don't waste your one precious life like I wasted mine.
Life out here is simple, but it's honest work. You learn to respect the land and the animals. Life out here is simple, but it's honest work. You learn to respect the land and the animals. Life out here is simple, but it's honest work. You learn to respect the land and the animals. Life out here is simple, but it's honest work. You learn to respect the land and the animals.